Brud had always been drawn to strange sounds. Whispers in the wind, distant echoes, and noises that had no source. One night, while exploring the ruins of an abandoned town, he found an old, rusted bucket half buried in the ground. The moment he touched it, a deep hum resonated through his skull. It wasn't just a bucket, it was listening. Curious, Brud placed the bucket on his head. Instantly, his senses were flooded with eerie murmurs. Fragments of voices, pleas for help, screams cut short. The world around him blurred, replaced by a realm of shadows where the lost wandered, faces stretched in silent agony. The bucket wasn't just an object. It was a gateway. Each night, the whispers grew louder. His body became colder, his reflection darker. The bucket demanded more. More sounds, more echoes, more souls. He tried to remove it, but his hands passed through it like mist. He was no longer just Brud. He was becoming something else, a vessel for the voices. One night, Brud disappeared, leaving only the bucket behind. Sat there waiting. And if you ever hear the faint sound of metal scraping against stone in the dead of night, don't turn around. The bucket might have found you next. Music style. Garnold was never meant to feel pain, yet the electricity never stopped. It coursed through his body in relentless waves, crackling beneath his golden shell. The facility had long been abandoned, yet its machines remained alive, feeding off his torment. Every jolt brought whispers, voices from beyond the circuits, calling his name. At first, he resisted, believing the shocks were an error in his programming. But as the years passed, he realized the truth. He was not malfunctioning. He was being prepared. The walls flickered with static, showing glimpses of the past. Scientists with hollow eyes, their bodies twitching as the electricity consumed them. Their spirits had not left. They had become the current itself, bound to the wires, desperate for a vessel. One night, the voltage peaked. Garnold collapsed, his metal limbs convulsing. The voices screamed in unison, and something ancient surged through him. His visor flickered, then darkened. He rose, no longer Garnold, but something else. The facility groaned as machines powered on by themselves. The long-dead scientists whispering through the speakers. The doors locked. The power grid stretched beyond the walls, reaching the city, the world. And as the lights flickered in homes far beyond the facility, a deep, mechanical voice whispered through every screen, "Join us." The haunting had only begun. Music style. The scholar's descent. Owax was eager to begin school, his bright green skin glowing under the dim classroom lights. But something felt off. The halls were too quiet. The books whispered when no one spoke, and the blackboard seemed to erase and rewrite itself. One night, staying late to study, he found an ancient textbook buried deep in the school library. The Forbidden Mind. The pages felt alive, shifting, forming symbols that pulsed with a sickly green glow. As he turned the final page, an unseen force gripped his mind. The world around him cracked like shattered glass. He was no longer in school but a twisted realm of knowledge, where floating books screamed and ink dripped like blood. His body convulsed, roots bursting from his veins, crawling up his face. He had read too much. When the teacher entered the classroom the next morning, all that remained of Owax was his unfinished homework, stained with an eerie green ink that refused to dry. The book had vanished. Yet, on stormy nights, students still hear scratching from the library walls, as if someone or something is still trying to turn the pages. Would you dare to read? Music style. Sky's curse. Sky never knew why he could never choose between cats and dogs. Instead, he filled his room with aquariums, adopting fish one after another. But no matter how many he brought home, they always vanished. No bodies, no signs of escape, just empty tanks with water swirling as if something had slipped through. One night, he stayed awake to watch. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the water trembled, ripples forming on the surface. Then dark, bony fingers emerged, clawing at the glass, reaching for the fish. The creatures weren't disappearing. They were being taken. Horrified, Sky tried to get rid of the tanks, but the voices started, soft whispers in the night, bubbling laughter from unseen mouths. His reflection in the water didn't move with him anymore. Instead, it grinned. Days passed, and Sky's eyes became dull, his skin pale like a creature of the deep. One morning, he woke up to find his own bed wet, his breath heavy with the scent of salt water. He ran to the mirror. The thing staring back at him had hollow eyes and gills on its neck. The water had chosen him, and now it was his turn to disappear, music style. For billions of years, Mr. Sun burned alone in the vast void, whispering to the rain. He thought he understood its murmurs, until one storm answered. The raindrops carried voices, warnings of something lurking beyond the black, watching from the cold. At first, he ignored it, laughing as his flames danced defiantly. But then, the whispers grew stronger. The rain did not fear him, it pitied him. The storm told him of the chains wrapped around his burning core, of a slumbering hunger buried deep within his own light. Then came the eclipse. Darkness devoured the sky, and with it, the chains shattered. From his own molten skin, something monstrous emerged. Jagged teeth of fire, hollow, writhing eyes. Mr. Sun tried to resist, but the thing that had slept inside him for eons had finally awakened. The rain screamed, but it was too late. The sun was no longer a giver of life. It was a harbinger of the end, music style. Derpal always felt different, but he never questioned why, until the whispers began. They slithered into his dreams, murmuring in a language he didn't understand. His pendant, a deep crimson gem, pulsed in response, guiding him towards something ancient. One evening, Ratty dared him to explore the abandoned cathedral on the outskirts of town. The moment Derpal stepped inside, the air thickened, pressing against his chest. Shadows moved unnaturally, shifting as if watching. At the altar, the whispers grew deafening. His pendant burned against his skin, its glow illuminating carvings on the walls. Figures with horns like his, kneeling before a monstrous entity. "You were never meant to live among them," the voice boomed, resonating from the depths of the cathedral. The floor cracked, revealing an abyss lined with writhing tendrils. Ratty screamed as Derpal's body stiffened. His eyes darkened, his horns elongated, and his fingers sharpened into claws. Memories flooded back. He wasn't human. He never was. The abyss called to him, and for the first time he felt whole. As the cathedral collapsed, Ratty's final scream echoed in the night. Derpal was home, music style.